going, guys? This is episode 17 of the Buried in the Bones podcast. You don't love the work. You just fear the silence. A little bit of honesty. You don't love the work. You just fear what it drowns out. All of our training, all of our structure, it's all just noise. Noise dressed up like purpose. Discipline without building anything. Action without emotion or alignment. The issue is we don't sit still. We're avoiding stillness, which is our time for mental repetition. Everything we've been chasing, all of the achievements, endeavors, we did it all for hope that it would make us feel whole, like it would provide some form of value. I don't even know if we fear failure. I think we really just fear silence. Because in those moments of silence and stillness, that is us. The silence is you. And of course, this is Buried in the Bones, so maybe we can uncover a little bit of that and potentially discover you. Welcome in. Guys, last week was great. Discipline and devotion. It was one of my favorites. And we're just going to keep on building. So what's the difference between really obsession and devotion or discipline? All the above. What we've kind of done is discipline is very similar today as obsession. Whether we like it or know it or not. If you listened last week, devotion is grounded. This week, obsession is anxiousness. If no one saw you doing what you do, would you still be doing the things that you're doing today? All of our routines, actions, hobbies. If there was no progress, would you still do it? If there wasn't something to achieve? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. How many times have we referenced this, or Jung in particular? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It seems like obsession and discipline has been a way for us to avoid emotional truth. Like a mask, a physical mask, but the mask is activity. The mask is your achievement and aesthetic and validation and your external or social hierarchy. Check it out. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to retell the story and give you some more insight on me in college, how this relates to me. Obsession. Yeah, my senior year, I was doing a 19 credit hour semester of very hard tests. You know, college is, if you're disciplined enough, of course, and you stick to your structure, you'll get through. Maybe not with alignment, which seems to be a prevalent issue today. But not only that, I was in a relationships. friends, my family, girlfriend at the time. The problem was I was so concerned with my image and likeness and who I was going to be in the eyes of others. My father, who was in the military and was an air marshal as well, and then went from being an air marshal to joining a SWAT team, and then joined a special response team. He was just a really cool dude. You grow up with that. You're a part of the training. You're going to their government contracting events, and it's your father and the team that he has doing CQB, and you're at the back of the building, and they're breaking down a door, right? They're doing a show for these contractors to see if they'll win this contract. It's really cool. As a kid, you're just like, these badass individuals hand you a chair, and they're like, I want you to throw this chair as hard as you can at this other chair and make this obnoxiously, extremely loud noise, which really replicated them breaking down the door. And as a kid, 5 years old maybe, I don't know, you do that. And you see these guys go in tactically, go through their CQB and clear rooms, and you hear the gunshots, and you start hearing an applause afterwards where all the contractors and government agents and folks are clapping and congratulating them, and then you walk into the smoke-filled room and you have all these guys shaking your hand, your dad's introducing you to all that shit. Probably not the best place to take a shot, but it was badass. I was the only kid there. I was definitely the only kid there. But you grow up with that. You grow up with this identification of like, these are fucking men. So in college, you want to talk about obsession. I was running a 5K in 18 minutes and 37 seconds or something like that. I was, back squatting 365 pounds for 3 to 5 reps pretty well. I could run forever. I could carry shit for a very long time. I was studied up. I nailed every physical test and educational test that the firefighting academies could have. But the truth is, every time I would go back home and I'd lay in bed, I'd be like, who the fuck am I? My friends didn't see me a lot. I was so obsessed with making sure that I am close to this idea of what I thought a man is. And if I was looking back at it now, I'd be like, if I could tell myself one thing, it'd be like, you're alright. You don't realize who you are. One of the best things, and I might have said this on this podcast, but the most powerful thing I've ever been told was by a man named Thomas. And he told me this thing in front of other folks. He was like, I wish you could see yourself the way I and other people do. And it changed my life. I remind myself of that maybe every fucking day. And I'd be sure to just think about others, because the truth is, I can't see myself clearly. It's like looking through opaque glass. But if I look at others and create an empathetic visualization and perspective about what's going on in the lives of others, I get a better insight on what is reality for me. During that time of firefighting, I was the most disciplined and obsessed ever. I was going to be the guy. I'm not sure if I made a decision based on full confidence, but there was a part of me that ultimately made the decision to take a shot on myself and I had $2,000. As soon as I graduated, it was either going to Atlanta or Columbia. Both had asked me, or essentially offered me, to join the firefighting academy, their firefighting academies, respectively. And I chose neither. And I slept on my friend's couch for a night. I drove out to Winslow, Oklahoma, after accepting a job in Gilbert, Arizona, after flying out there for 3 days, having 13 workouts, 9 interviews. And my journey started. I took a bet on myself. It wasn't because I knew it was right, but it was because what I knew where I was going was wrong. And whatever there was lying underneath or beneath me, something was not right. And if one direction is clearly not right, well, at least the other direction's closer to being a little closer to the truth. I had to face what I was avoiding. And during that time, movement and discipline and obsession was noise and a distraction from the silence. It's kind of weird. Silence is like exposure. And for some reason, most people don't realize what they're most afraid of is like rest. They're afraid of the feelings that come up and the clarity or lack thereof, the boiling up of emotion and history in themselves. And they're afraid of what may come up while they're sitting in stillness. So we get obsessed with movement. It's kind of like my dog. They say that, I'm obsessed with my dog Leo, but it's not good for him to always be mentally engaged where I'm touching him and petting him and cuddling him, playing with him. He needs time to himself. If not, Leo is not Leo. Leo is whatever the fuck I want him to be that day. You have to respect the dog. But you're doing that to yourself. I do it to myself. We stay busy, always doing something, without alignment. It makes sense. It seems like the emotional things going on under the surface through obsession is like shame, fear, unworthiness. The structure is so sound in some cases. Even if it seems like the people who aren't very disciplined, we'll say who aren't very active, it's like their structure still is. They're still waking up probably at a certain time, maybe at 12:30 p.m. They lay on the couch for 4 hours, they have their 10 bagels, and then they have something else going on. It is structure. It's just not ideal. But we're all keeping structure so tight and confined, and because we're trying to avoid of the potential of discovering what is the shadow. We've referenced this before. You've heard me talk about it. Carl Jung's shadow. It's not really just a concept. It's kind of like the pulse or the living thing underneath. It's like the history behind you that you've lost. Like when people go to Spain or Greece and they're uncovering history, that is like the fundamental root and foundation of what Greece is. And we uncover it to discover the story. There's parts of you that is buried. And we have to uncover it to potentially discover you. But sometimes it feels a bit too much, too raw, too honest. And the truth is, maybe unacceptable. Like maybe you just don't accept yourself. And this is kind of another Jung tie-in. But He said, and I wrote this down, "The shadow is everything you have refused to be." But here's the problem. I think when people sit with themselves, including me, we fear of going back to that person because we fear that it's going to ruin us. But I think the reality is what it's trying to do, your shadow, if you will, is trying to rejoin you. We're trying to bring back your history and find a way to bring back the beauty and the structure and the foundation of you and tie it all back together and rejoin you. This is a podcast essentially about the mind, body, and spirit. I don't know if you guys have read this book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. But your body, it kind of stores what your mind avoids. It's, people have talked about it, and I don't know if this checks, but people move how they feel. If you take someone who's incredibly stressed out and their life is stress, and they're high strung, and you watch how they move, there's no flow to it. They're stressed, they're condensed, they're storing it. It's kind of cliche because people have been saying it for so long, and some of it have been people who have no clue on what they're talking about. But it's almost like the Occam's razor. Oh shit, they're kind of right. So here's an idea for your body. How do you get back to you? What is stillness? Well, I think it's presence, and I think you can have presence wherever you are, even through action. Making the unconscious conscious, right? So for training, if you're training, maybe we strip away our playlists. People make fun of me for it, but take the playlist away. Stop listening to music. Tune in. Maybe no mirrors. Feel. The mirror is a great coach, but you need to involve you in the workout. It's almost like if I'm looking through a mirror and I'm training, I'm almost like not tuning into what's going on here. I'm like looking at this vessel right through the mirror. It can be great, but I think we all train in front of mirrors too much. Metrics. Mainly in the performance world. But sometimes, and I'm glad the strength and conditioning world's kind of getting closer to this, and I love how really high-level strength coaches do this. They allow for an athlete's autonomy by feel. Some will call it like perceived exertion. But I love that. I love that style of coaching, but only for people who are advanced enough to know what the exertion point is. But feel what your body is holding. The stored energy, the stored emotion. It's all just feedback. For some people, try not to escape the pain, but move to hear what your body is telling you. The movement problem. How can we get closer to ourselves? Tune in. You don't love the work. We're just scared of what silence has to say, or what we may say to ourselves during it. We're so obsessed. We're so dialed in. We're obsessed with running away. Your routine is a mask. What if you went 1 week, for those who are super into numbers and tracking, what if you went 1 week by feeling? Maybe asking yourself and reflecting, what are you running from? Why is this so monotonous? For me, truly, my routine recently has had zero fucking flavor. I need more devotion, but my routine, especially in the mornings, has been so disciplined for the sake of what began when I was obsessed with my nutrition and different training aspects. But I've lost the spiritual alignment and the root grounding of myself. I need to breathe. I need to take my mornings and wake up and go, maximal expansive breathing. Exercise my lungs. Move my primary joints and wake up the dog. Tune in. Maybe it's time we burn the routines and create what is ritual. Put some alignment into the shit you do. Burn the routine. If it's not working and there is no soul, it's not working. If you're doing something every single day without a devotional or spiritual reason why that nourishes your soul or your body or your mind, the odds are it could just be noise. It could just be some form of routine that began when you were obsessed about something or running away from something and it got cloudy and you still do it. Ask yourself, what's moving through me today that needs to be felt and not fixed? Let me say that again. Ask yourself this question. Find a mirror. Say it to yourself. I asked this question myself today, so I wanted to share it. What's moving through me today that needs to be felt and not fixed? You don't need fixing. So let's say you burn the routine, you start creating a ritual. All this movement, chaos, routine. What happens when all the noise comes to an end? When you take all of your numbers and your metrics, your schedule, what is there? Right now, think about it. We take everything we're doing, all of our actions, our pursuits, endeavors, achievements, aspirations. If we took all these things, our numbers, our performance goals, what is left? Who am I? If you lost it all, what's left? Silence. Stillness. At least there should be. That's where the real work starts. It seems like discipline has been a way to get you away from stillness. It's almost like a way to avoid the silence. And for some reason, the internet in particular has convinced us that the super dialed in routine, minute by minute, throughout my day, and all this movement and structure is supposed to fuel my noggin, my body, and most importantly, my spirit. It's not human. It's not. There's not a lot of devotion behind it outside of potentially making money. It's interesting. It's robotic. Kind of like noise, but the more disciplined and regimented my routine gets, the louder it gets, and the further I get away from a little bit of stillness. I think what we need is just like we just need the ability to sit down and reflect. And just listen. If you're training, just listen. You do a set, instead of turning on the tunes or grabbing your phone. Let's say I do some squats. I just did my squats. Great. That rest time is my mental repetition time. Take your breaths. When's the last time you did that? Too many inputs. Too much noise, too much discipline, too much routine. It's frustrating. It's time to turn off the inputs. Maybe sit with yourself and do this. For your mind. You're going to go on a walk. No podcast, no headphones, just you. 20 minutes. Don't analyze. Just be. Go for a walk. How can we do this a practical step for our body? We're going to train without music. Have some legitimate repetitions for your breathing. Where's the resistance? What needs fixing? What needs healing? Where can I go from here? Am I strong enough? Can I carry on? If I move a certain way and I have a reaction to it, is that because there's a legitimate issue there, or is that just a memory of my nervous system? And can I create a different story for it and bypass what is a pain response or some reflexive response in movement? And here's the truth. What's an exercise you can do for your soul? So for our mind, we have the walk, no inputs. For our body, train, no inputs. For your spirit, after your training session or your walk, you're going to grab a piece of paper and a pen. And you're going to write down something, a truth that you're avoiding, a truth that hurts, a truth that you need to hear, a truth that you get pissed off when other people say it, but in reality you know that is true. That is your exercise. Unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. Unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And we have been avoiding stillness and silence through obsession, discipline masking as an achiever, a facade, trying to get away from the very thing that you are. Whereas the shadow, Jung said, it's just wanting to become a part of your life again. Not to be separate of, but to become one and maximize your true potential. It is what is buried in the bones. You're just too obsessed with looking busy, and you think you're too strong to hear it. Burn the routine. And if you're not training to become who it is you are and to get closer to yourself, all the other things and the achievements, they're just decorations for your mask. This is Buried in the Bones podcast, episode 17. You don't love the work, you just fear the silence. Boom. Check out the Buried in the Bones podcast, buriedinthebones.com. You can check out writings, journals. We have a free nutrition PDF up there now, and you can have access to all of the podcasts that I have. And we got some guests coming up in July, so I'm not going to tell you guys them yet. But burn the routines, my friends. If you're not trying to become who you are, all these other achievements and things aren't getting you closer to yourself. You're just decorating the mask. If this left a mark, good.